I've decided that I want to name creatures for a living. Recently I did this video right here where I talked about this character that watches people that Stan Lee named him the Watcher. Well, here you have a character that licks people, and it's called a licker. Talk about an easy job. As the Extreme channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we're giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey everybody, welcome to the Extreme channel. Today we're looking at Pure Art's life-size Licker bust. This is from the video game, or maybe you could say the movies, Resident Evil, which, believe it or not, I've never actually played the video game. I am not a big video gamer. I was growing up, but then I became an adult and had some other responsibilities. No disrespect to you adult gamers out there that I don't know where you find time. Okay, maybe there was a little bit of disrespect. But anyway, video games produce some badass stuff. So that's why I bought this, because this is totally badass. Made by a company, as I said, called Pure Arts. This is a life-size licker bust. If you don't know what a licker is, well, essentially in Resident Evil, it's the post-apocalyptic, Raccoon City, all this crap, because I have seen the movies once. This is a zombie of a zombie, essentially. It's when the zombies kind of go through a second stage. Some of them actually turn into these really grotesque creatures. So this is actually the portrait, just the bust. Here's a picture of what the entire body looks at. Just as disgusting, just as badass, and craziness. Now, I purchased this a long time ago when I was buying kind of horror busts, but I'm actually getting out of most of those. I'm actually going to end up selling all of my horror busts. If you want to know what that's about, don't message me. Just make sure you've liked this video, you subscribe to the channel, and you've hit that bell notification, because we're going to sell it through a video in the upcoming months here. So that's why I bought this. But I really do like it. I don't think it's as good as the prototype in some initial photos. We're going to talk about that in the Extreme review today. But I might try and keep him with my video game pieces, because technically it does come from a video game. So if you want to see me putting that in the collection there, make sure to check out the Extreme channel social media. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. A link for those is in the description below. But today we're going to focus on this guy. Big shout out to Comic Concepts. That's who I got it from. They carry tons of cool stuff. We're going to talk more about them later when we get to value. But I was able to get it for a stellar deal, and now he's here, so I am stoked. And I'm very thankful that my wife didn't see this piece, because she would definitely not be a fan. Although, you know, with his licking capability, he could probably show her a thing or two. Alright, so let's start with concept of this piece. And when it comes to a bust, so a bust is essentially a portrait, and sometimes they have some shoulders and some other parts, which is the case here. It's kind of hard to talk about concept because you can't get really creative. Now what they did here, you have a base, which is actually very similar to the only other Pure Arts piece I have. We'll talk about that in a second. But it really gives you the feeling that the earth is scored, it's charred. There's a few different things on the base, like a nameplate talks about biohazard present because these zombies were accidentally made. You see almost like what's a sewer. And then you move up, and this guy, you actually do see his shoulders in the upper part of his torso, which I do like. His head alone would be kind of boring. We'll talk a little bit about the back when we get to paint and sculpt, but that's boring as well. Not only is his tongue and teeth out, he's ready to lick, which he doesn't really lick. He actually eats and kills. But you see his exposed brain. Right next to it, you see a small knife actually inserted into him, and I think that's kind of a cool feature. And we'll talk a little bit more about display options later. And as you move to the top, you see kind of this protruding bone and muscle mass. It's pretty neat. Now, I didn't talk about the display name card down here. We'll talk more about that later. But I think the concept, you know, it's nothing exciting, but it's cool for what it is. So I think the concept is a solid 4 out of 5. It's not just a portrait on a stick. They added kind of this cool environmental base. You see part of the torso, and it's kind of coming right at you. So I do like that a lot. Now with design, first thing, let's look at the unboxing and assembly. One box you can see right here had an art box on it, which is pretty cool, although I never really use art boxes. On the inside was the standard foam with an instruction card, and it was one layer. Here everything is wrapped up in the wax paper, and here it is unwrapped. All right, gonna measure him really quick. All right, so he's about 32 inches deep. That does create a lot of display issues. So I don't know if my original plan is gonna work. Maybe I'll have to end up selling him. The highest point is only 16 and a half or so that's not bad. And then the widest point, probably the shoulders here, is a little less than 20 inches. Now you do have a few display options. I don't know if they're meant to be display options, but they do have them. So first of all, the knife right here, you can take it out. Here's a picture of it with the knife, and then here it is taken out. So not too bad. I prefer to leave it in there. I think it adds to it. You have a little display plate here, which I'm never a fan of these. I'm going to put this right back in the box, but it's okay for what it is. Now technically, if you wanted to, you could remove this tongue. However, there's a huge hole in the back of his throat. And his tongue, he is the licker that kind of makes up the statue. Again, it's not meant to be that way. Now, there's two different versions of this. A regular version, which is what we have right here, and then an exclusive version. We'll talk more about that in design. Everything fit together really well. You saw I had a little bit of challenges inserting some of the poles into the holes.
Hey, that's what she said.
But I think what would have really taken this to the next level, even though it sticks out pretty deep, is if it was wall mountable. I think that's something that they missed out on. The weight is pretty negligible. If you had some studs, you could definitely get it in there. But it sticks out so far. I think that's a huge negative. I think they could have done some modifying on the base here to move this back quite a bit and save themselves about 6 inches. So I think that's a big negative. Also, he's so low to the ground. You don't want to put this in a bottom display because all you're going to be seeing is the brain. So it almost has to be eye level or higher. So for those reasons, I think the design is a 3 out of 5. I think they definitely could have done better. Paint and sculpt, that's where it's good. I was expecting it to be a little better though. As I said, I only own one other Pure Arts piece. It's this Terminator right here. And I like that quite a bit. This is mounted on the wall. As I said, the base is very reminiscent of this. Not only the rock, but kind of the exact shape. But let's take a look at this. All right, let's dive into this disgustingness. I'm going to start with the base and also the back of it. So as I said, very reminiscent of that Terminator base. Kind of this charred, rock-like gravel. You see some red in there. Very similar to the Terminator. The pipe down here kind of insinuating a sewer, very covered in rust. I like it. It looks good. Not great, but good. I like some of the little Easter eggs, including this little caution biohazard. Kind of neat. And it has almost like this dirt feel on it. Really quick, the knife. So you can tell that it's not real. I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm sure you wouldn't want it to be a real knife. They made a bunch of disclaimers on that as well. Even the blood on the end looks decent, I think. And again, here's another shot of what it looks like without it. So you almost have to have that in there, in my opinion. But not too bad. Here's another close-up of the COA. Now, on the back of him, I don't know what I would have done differently, but I wouldn't have done this. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, is that the inside of his bones? Is that just, hey, let's just pick gray and whites and paint the inside of it that? Granted, it's highly unlikely you'll ever see this, but not sure why they did that. The bone structure on him looks good. I like how it's very dirty, which would make sense because it's on the exterior of the body. Now, one of the things you're really going to notice is the glistening effect. And these, I have very heavy lights on it. So I think that exemplifies it quite a bit more. I like that a lot. And I think it covers up some of the paint sins there are. But the glistening effect is not all over, but over most of it. So for example, you don't see it right here. And I think it looks very boring without. So I'm really glad they did that. And it really brings out those red and pink colors. You can see the striations in the muscle. The sculpt on this is really good. And then the bones protruding over the top, that looks pretty cool. And So the makeup of the body is very similar everywhere, but it's pretty fantastic. And again, I'm glad they added that moist glistening effect, as muscles would be naturally. The brain looks really cool. Again, if it didn't have the glistening effect, not as cool, but the different compartments here. You know, interesting color for the brain as well, but I think, you know, it's following the Resident Evil aspect of it. And how the brain looks bigger than the head, I like that as well. No eyes, but the star of the show is the mouth. Kind of the tendons here that are, you know, very much reminds me of like Venom. And they went a lot pinker on this, which I like. And there's still some dark red mixed in between. And this is all strong, moist, glistening effect everywhere. But you can really see the musculature on there, and I think that looks awesome. They did a really nice job with the teeth. Almost look like acrylic teeth. I like how the gums are this off-white color with a little bit of pink faded on top of them instead of a traditional deep red. It really differentiates it from those tendons all over. But the teeth look great, jutting different directions. The tongue, I'm a little displeased with. I don't know if it's the makeup of the texture on it. It actually looks a lot better on camera than it does in real life, which is, usually it's the opposite of that. You have the pointed barb on the end, a few of these poisonous teeth down here. I'm not digging the color. I think it's too closely similar to this, so I think it's a little bit of a miss on the direction for the paint. But yeah, so I think some pros and cons overall in the paint and sculpt here. Again, I don't understand why they did this in the back. They could have, I don't know what's going on. It's just like, let's just pick a random color and paint it that. Granted, you won't see that a lot, but regarding the sculpt, I think the sculpt is pretty cool. I think it's a 4 out of 5. They did really, really well. It's impressive on many, many levels. The paint's at least a 3 out of 5, but I expected it to be better, honestly. Part of the moist effect, which I really like, that sliminess as I talked about, that really elevates it more. But I still think the paint's a 3 out of 5 at best. I could see a repaint with this doing really, really well. Now, keep in mind, 3 out of 5 means it's a good score. It doesn't mean it's amazing, but it's what we paid for, which is a good transition into value. These guys retailed at $900. As I said, I got it from Comic Concepts. They are cheaper than almost anybody else, plus they have the best shipping rates. There's a non-affiliate link in the description to check them out. They still have these available, and the customer service is second to none there. So make sure to check them out. They have the regular version. That's what this is. The exclusive version is sold out. So they had 100 exclusive versions. The difference between exclusive and regular is the exclusive came with this print right here, which I didn't really care for, so I didn't mind getting the regular version, which they made 666 of. So value, $900 for this. Edition size is average. You know, there's not a big market for Resident Evil stuff. There's not a big market for gross, disgusting stuff. There's a cult market, like people who really, really love that stuff and follow it, but there's not necessarily a huge quantity of those people. So I think the value's a 3 out of 5, honestly, on this. I don't think that you can expect to maybe get your money back. It'll be interesting. If I can't display this, I'll end up trying selling it, see what I can get for it. I'll probably lose some money is my bet, because this is still available. It's not that this isn't done well. It's just there's not a big market for stuff. Most people who have more than one person in their house are going to have a hard time selling the other person to display something like this. Now, does this have the X factor? Is this a 5 out of 5 statue? No, it's not. You know, there's some things like we talked about on the back. The display issues are negative. However, this looks really cool. I think it's a 4 out of 5. I am impressed. I'm really glad I got him in. I definitely want to try and find a display spot for him. I just hate mixing. Like, he'll probably have to be next to some Street Fighter pieces, which just don't make sense to me. But a very cool piece overall. Big thank you to Comic Concepts that I was able to get him in. He is fantastic. Again, make sure to check them out, guys. In the meantime, if you could drop me a like and drop a comment below. What is the ugliest, most disgusting thing you have in your collection? I ask you that because not only do I read and interact with every single comment, but it could enter you into a drawing to win a statue. We will be giving all of these statues away, plus additional ones at every 5,000 subscriber milestone. To win one of these statues, all you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, you've hit that bell notification, and then just drop a comment below. Every 5,000 subscriber milestone, we are going to do a random drawing and pick a random comment and give one of these statues away, plus some additional ones I'm not showing right now. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, please hit that like. It really helps the channel. Check out some of these other videos, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.